And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Andy Webb with Lifestyles Unlimited, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. And I'll tell you what, I've gotten a lot of email lately, a lot of questions on marketing and leasing a house. So let's make that the show today. Let's talk about that, marketing your house for lease. And if you have any questions related to this topic or anything else, hey, like these listeners that have been sending these in to me, I do appreciate your questions. You can send those to askandy@luinc.com. Again, askandy@luinc.com. And I do thank you for tuning in today. If you're new to the program, Lifestyles Unlimited is an education and mentoring organization. We're devoted to helping you become successful real estate investors, and we focus specifically on single-family houses and apartments. None of that other stuff out there. Not Airbnb, not midterm rentals, not flipping land, none of that stuff. Apartments and houses, and that's it. And I've gotten a lot of questions, like I said, on specifically on leasing a house. If you're an apartment investor, that's an entirely different game. And I am an apartment investor, by the way. I'm a passive investor in apartments. So guess what? I don't even have to worry about marketing or leasing anything in that respect. And if this is one of those things that is keeping you from getting started, oh my, what if I buy something and I can't get it leased? And that is a very common fear. I fully understand that. The name of the game is rental income. Well, if you can't get it leased, you have a problem. Well, if you don't want to worry about that, go the passive apartment route. I don't have to think about that. Now, I am also a long-time single-family rental investor, over 11 years now, and I do self-manage. And I do market my houses. I do find the applicants. I do screen those applicants. Everything we're going to talk about today, I actually do that. Now, I've outsourced parts of this over the years, and I've taken it back under my control as our situation changes and whatnot. But this is something I can speak to very well. So I think that's in part why I got a lot of questions from you. So let's talk about this. And this really is a big fear that keeps a lot of people from getting started. I had a guest 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, actually when I was broadcasting from Nashville, Tennessee. I was joined by Lee Reeves. He's one of our life changers. He's one of the presenters of the Financial Freedom Seminar, and that is a 2-day class chock full of information. We talk all about houses on day 1, 8 hours, a lot of information on day 2, apartments. So you get both sides of the equation there. But I asked Lee in the course of the interview, he's been doing this for a number of years, and I said, what's the biggest hurdles that you're encountering right now in the current market with people that are just thinking about getting started? They've come to your seminar. They don't really know what they're doing. They're here to learn. And this is the biggest thing. Can I get the house actually leased? So I understand that. And again, that is the goal. We want to rent that property to get that cash flow to create that financial freedom that we're talking about. And I do this myself, and it's a good thing to learn how to do. Now, over time, you may conclude this is not a better part of my skill set. You can outsource that. You can maybe use a leasing agent. You can hand that over to a property manager. But I think it's a good thing to learn so that when you do hand something like that off, you are able to speak a little more fluently to the topic. And I will tell you, if you are just now thinking about getting started and you're worried about high interest rates and you're worried about the high price of homes out there, I've got a number of houses all around Dallas-Fort Worth. We've got some down near Houston. And when I did my lease renewals earlier in the year, as part of my process, I look at lease comps. I look at what's rented in my neighborhood. I noticed a couple of things. Number one, the days on market are extremely short because there's not enough inventory. And that's the other point. There wasn't that much on the market. When I want to find lease comparables, houses that have leased on the MLS anyhow, in order to figure out what's the rent these days, there just wasn't that much out there. There were sub-markets where I have houses where I had trouble finding more than one that had leased in the last 180, even 270 days, looking back a little bit farther sometimes. So there's really not a lot on the market right now. So very limited supply. That means it's a good time to own rental property, rental houses. And add to that, If you, again, going back to the high interest rates and the high prices, affordability for home ownership in particular has been declining significantly. Good time to own rentals. And with people still moving in droves, very large numbers to the Sun Belt, to the southern states, to Dallas-Fort Worth, to San Antonio, to Houston, all the population coming south, good time to own rentals. But it is a house, and it's a house for lease. So how do you do that? How do you get it leased? So I would tell you this, even before you put that house on the market, I mean, it really does. It starts before you buy the house, not even before you put the for rent sign in the yard, but before you buy the house. And again, I mentioned Lifestyles Unlimited. We've been around for over 30 years as an education and mentoring group. And getting a proper education in this business is a big part of that puzzle piece for you. You'll learn how to buy right. You'll learn how to handle the financing. We buy houses that need renovation. You'll learn what goes into that part of the equation. You'll learn about doing a refinance. You'll learn about doing a cash out refinance. I talked about that last week. Good way to get money out, tax-free. You'll learn about selling, and you'll learn about managing the house. We get into that very much in depth. I mentioned that financial freedom seminar. Good place to go to learn a lot of the nuts and bolts, which we'll talk about today, probably a little more at an upper level, but good place to learn. Getting an education is fundamental, and that starts before you buy the house. When you do your research prior to even buying that target rental property, you're going to set yourself up for success. How do you do that? Number one, is the area you're looking at even good as to hold a rental investment? You can learn a lot by just doing some research, or if you're working with I work with the realty team at Lifestyles Unlimited very closely, and I get a lot of information from them, and I can see, for example, they've done a lot of analysis before I even look at some of these properties, and I can see the expected cash flow per month. I can see my expected cash out of pocket. So I know a lot going into these investments, and I buy from other sources as well, and I have to do a little more digging on my own. But I want to know things, and I see this in their analysis. For example, what are the days on market? How quickly is that property getting leased? That tells me a lot right there. Is it a hot market, or is it not? And of course, I want to keep things in mind like seasonality, and if we have time, I'll get to that towards the end of the show. That can have an impact, but days on market is important because I do want to get at least quickly. Now, if you're going out a little bit farther, I'm in Dallas-Fort Worth, and a lot of the submarkets around Dallas, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, Richland Hills, North Richland Hills, Irving, Mesquite, I mean, I could name 100 of them. They're going to rent very quickly because this is where the bulk of the population is. As I get out into secondary and tertiary markets, the renter pool will be a little smaller. So my days on market may be a little bit longer, but there's a certain trade-off there. I'm typically able to buy for a lower out-of-pocket, getting a better investment, in essence, a better deal in some of these tertiary markets. So there's a trade-off there, and if you're willing to make that for higher equity and great cash flow, you just may need to wait a little longer. That's okay. All right, so maybe longer in rural areas, just be open about that. How does the product that I'm looking at, I'm thinking of this house as a product, how does that match the market? Let's say I'm looking at an area that has, it's close to a school, and I think in my mind, this might be a good one for a family, but it's a 2-bed, 1-bath house. That may not be ideal if that's my target renter. Now, I can't discriminate on the basis of familial status or race or creed or anything like that, but I know that this is a market that's ideal for that type of residential renter. So I may need to do something. Either I can convert that thing, let's say, from a 2-1 into a 3-bed, 1-bath, or maybe even a 3-bed, 2-bath. Yeah, we do that sometimes. That may make it more appealing. So is that something I can do? Is that product a good match for that market, for that renter that I have in mind? And then renovations. I want to understand how the renovation process works, and that is part of getting educated, because I want to know what I need to do to really get that thing rent ready. And part of that comes from doing that analysis and seeing what has rented in that market. And if I look at days on market, I may see houses that are flying off the shelves, leased in 2, 3, 5, 8, 10 days, and others that are sitting out there for 45 and 60. Well, look at the pictures. What's the difference? Is there a difference? Probably in the upgrades and the updating there is. And we follow a motto at Lifestyles Unlimited: best product, best price. If I renovate to best product, I'm targeting those houses that are attaining that market value that I want after it's fixed up and are attaining those lease amounts, those rents when fixed up that I want. That's the best product. That's what I'm shooting for. And if you have the best product in that submarket, it sells itself. Yes, you're going to market. You're going to put that house up for lease, but the best product at the best price will sell itself. You know, Lee said it last week. This is one of the biggest areas where people have fears and stop themselves from taking action. But when you do it right, and that's what I'm talking about here, it's easy. There's nothing to it. It sells itself. So you rehab to the market. You learn what that market is by running those lease comparables, what has leased, to see what is leasing and leasing at your target price point. What is that price point? Do I have a realistic number in mind? I need to know that ahead of time as well. And what do I need to do to that house to get that $1,500, $1,800, $2,200, whatever that rent is that you're targeting? What do I need to do? But don't overdo it. You know, I have a sticker adhered to the side of my filing cabinet where I keep my lease docs and stuff. And I got this years ago from one of the GCs, one of the general contractors here in the Dallas area. In fact, I'm holding a pen from them as well. I guess I have a lot of that marketing material. But the sticker says, "It's not my house, it's my investment." So what you might go and do in your own property when you want to get it fixed up to refi or even to sell, you know, going in with those solid hardwood floors or engineered wood and super high-end fixtures, that's your house. But when you're renovating that property over there for lease, that's your investment. And I do see people overdoing it sometimes. And although you may think that may help you rent quicker at the end of the day, it may not really make that much of a difference. It may make a big difference, however, to your pocketbook. So don't go crazy. Again, go back to those lease comparables and be reasonable. Know how to budget. Again, goes back to the education. So really having a successful marketing plan and successfully leasing a house really does start before you buy the house. Now, we're going to do renovations because, as I mentioned, we're buying houses typically that do need some level of work, and that may be $10,000 in make ready all the way up to, I walked a house the other day that needed $90,000 in repairs. No problem. The budget was there. The cash out of pocket was maybe $20K, right? The way we buy, and we educate you on this process, allows us to do that and take down those heavy rehabs. But you can start the leasing, the marketing, before those renovations are done. This will save you some time. And it's as simple as getting one of those for rent or for lease signs and putting it on a stake and pounding that into the yard. Coming soon. Start marketing that early. You've closed on the house. You now own it. You know your renovations are going to take some period of time. Figure out what that is. Ask the GC or the general contractor, whoever you're working with, how long, what's the timeline here? You need to know that, obviously, before you can promise to let someone move in. But put a sign in the yard. Write up a description of the work being done. And if you've done this type of work before, in other words, this is not your first house, not your first rodeo, get pictures of that other house. Because if you're like I am, my first house looks like my second house, looks like my 10th house. You know, it looks like the fifth. Wash, rinse, and repeat. We keep going. If the model works, don't change it. So if you have pictures of similar properties that you've rehabbed, you can get color printouts of those, hang those on the window of the house being renovated. Not everybody's going to have your vision, so this is important. They may walk into that house that is still a little bit in disarray, and they may get scared. So those pictures will help them see a little bit more of your vision so they can identify, this is going to be a great one. So hey, quick break. We'll be right back.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
I don't know which one bums you out more, the little wheel, you get in the little wheel and run, or the cubicle. Go to your prison cubicle. Think about being in prison every day. What do? You get up every day and stand in your cubicle. Maybe sit in your cubicle. What do you do when you go to work every day? Go to the cubicle. Whew. I couldn't put up with it when I was there. I had to get out.
Ready to get out too? Learn how at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Andy Webb. I thank you for tuning in today. And if you have any questions, send those to me. You can email me at askandy@luinc.com. askandy@luinc.com. And we're talking about marketing that house for lease. That's the name of the game. We're buying a house, fixing it up with the goal of renting it and enjoying cash flow over years, enjoying equity capture because we bought it right. Yes, we have to do renovations, but we push up the value by a magnitude of fill in the blank 2, 5, 10 through the process. And we enjoy equity build up over the years because who's paying down that mortgage? Not me. I am not. The resident is. And we will enjoy some appreciation. We talked about that on last week's show, actually. You can go to lifestylesunlimited.com and click on the radio tab to find all of our shows archived there. And again, getting that house marketed, getting it leased really starts before you buy. We talked about that. And it can start before the renovations are done. Don't be afraid to get the process going. I've done this before. You know, our very first house, 11 plus years ago, we got it rented this very way. We had a sign in the front for rent, my phone number on it, and we let the contractors that were doing the work in the house know, hey, signs up, be ready, here's what we're asking for rent. Feel free to show them around if you have the time, or at least, maybe steer people away from dangerous areas. We had to do a lot of foundation repair on this very first property. We did not put the sign out there. I did not want people walking around the house while we had the slab foundation opened up and dirt everywhere. There's certain hazards, so give that some consideration. If you can allow people inside, though, once you get to that point, do that, but have a scope of work there so they can see just what is going on, what's going to come. And if you have pictures from other properties you've renovated, that's a great way to help them see your vision. A lot of people are not. I've walked houses with people where we're in the middle of renovations, and a lot of people just walked away. They just couldn't see the outcome. But by the same token, we did receive people that did and made that application and moved into that house. So it's a good way to go. Now, if you do decide to outsource this, and we'll talk about outsourcing just in a moment, I will tell you, some leasing agents, they're hesitant to list a house that is still under construction because of that very reason. They don't want to get out there to show the house, and flooring is up, it's still that concrete slab, and the people are just nervous about it. So some agents will say, no, not going to do that. By the same token, I'll tell you, at least in Texas, I don't know what the rules are in other states, but if you want to have them list that in the MLS, they can do a coming soon. There may not be any pictures. You probably don't have those ready to go, but they can do that up to 14 days in advance. Get the market ready. I've done that a number of times. Inquiries start coming in. When can we see it? Well, coming soon, I'll tell you. So it's one way to go. And other places, let's talk about places where you might list this. Let's say you're doing this on your own. And again, I think it's a good project to do one or two on your own just to see how the process works. And there, aside from the MLS, there are a lot of places online. A ton of internet sites. I could take the rest of this show and just start walking down the list. Some of the top sites people use these days include Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, Realtor.com. If you're in Texas, HAR, H-A-R, I think that's housesandrentals.com. I'm not a fan personally of Craigslist. Some people do use that. Zumper, Hotpads, apartments.com. I've surprisingly gotten a lot of interest in my houses through apartments.com. When I put something in the MLS that syndicates to all these sites for me automatically, easy enough, which is a reason to work with a realtor. You get a lot more spread. Or thinking about outsourcing, there are services out there that will simply post that in the MLS for you for a flat fee. You have to provide the pictures. You have to do the showings. Your phone number goes on there for any kind of scheduling. $500, whatever that might be. They just put that out there for you, and then you get that spread. Something to think about. But if you're going to go that route, whatever route, online, digitally, I'll tell you, once you get through the renovations, this won't apply while you're in the middle, of course. But once you're at the end of the renovations, if you're just now starting the process, get really good pictures, clear pictures, high resolution. When I do run my lease comps and I'm looking at these houses that have cleared in leased in 5-10 days, good pictures, good information. And those that are sitting out there for a while, they're fuzzy. There's a picture of the toilet, weird angles, tall grass. Can't even tell, is that a house or what is that thing in the picture? So clear, good pictures are extremely important to getting this thing properly marketed. So you got lots of places to go to list these, and then the process becomes a process. You're going to start to get calls. You're going to start to get emails. You're going to start to get all kinds of contact. And it can become overwhelming. If you've got the best product on the market at the best price, you're going to get these contacts. The people will come to you. And you need to learn how to manage that. And we really talk a lot about this in the 2-day Financial Freedom Seminar. And that's part of being a member of our Financial Freedom program. And I talked recently, in fact, with a member who just returned. You can go, if you're a member, you go back every month. We do those monthly here in Dallas, for example. He went back specifically because he now has his very first rental property under contract. Renovations are going on soon. So he's already thinking ahead. Okay, we're going to get to that lease part of the phase, and I want to be ready. And again, we talk about that in great deal, and we talk about automating the process. Because if you have the best product at the best price, the people will beat down your door to see that, to live in that. So you have to control that. And among other things, I'm going to hit this at an upper level. You can go to the seminar to learn more, but we use technology. We use technology above all else in this stage to pre-screen. You're going to get a lot of tire kickers. You're going to get a lot of people that push that I'm interested button because it's there and it's easy to push. And they may not be thinking about it. So you can use, for example, an email address specific to that property and say, send your inquiries here. And when that inquiry comes in, it kicks out an automated response that sends out your screening criteria, your application, the things you need to know about them before you even go the next step. And that may provide another email address where they can then return that information. So you're creating a series of filters to slow the exuberance down a little bit and start the pre-screening. You can also use technology, by the way, to automate the process for showing. I had a conversation with a member just the other day that is out of state, travels a lot, and was puzzling over how to show her house here in the Dallas area. Well, use a leasing agent or a property manager. That's one way. She didn't want to give up the month's rent. Okay, that's fine. Well, there are things out there. There are lock boxes that are essentially digital and have rolling codes. When I was a corporate guy, when I used to work in corporate America, when I would log on, I'd have to push this little key fob thing and it would give me this 6-digit code. And I had maybe 5 minutes to put it into my computer to be able to log on. And then it changed. And I'd have to push that button again. This lockbox is the same thing. It's just a rolling code. So somebody has to go through your pre-screening and then get that number. Some of these require an internet hotspot, some don't. So you don't necessarily have to have internet for that device. And members that I've talked to that use this technique, well, they require things like a photo ID, driver's license, sent over before they'll issue that lockbox code. Another thing you can do is thinking about automation and digitizing things. Aside from those really good pictures that you're going to put onto the various websites, there's a lot of technology now to create 3D blueprints of your property so people can walk through those online. You may get that leased before they even go out to the property. Now, you're going to get it marketed. You're going to put it in some of those places we talked about, great pictures, and then you need to think about showing. You can do one-off showings, but in my experience, you're going to have a lot of people that, quite frankly, just don't show up. Pre-screening will help here. When I send out my pre-screening request, income, credit score if they know it, pets, etc. If I don't get a reply, well, that's a no-go. I just filtered out some of the tire quick kickers, and quite a few of those fall by the wayside just at that stage in the process. But I advise you to schedule multiple showings at once or close together. If you have 5 families show up at once to see this house, what does that do? They start eyeballing each other. They love what you've done. Best product, best price. They really want that house. But that guy over there is looking at it too. And I could tell it creates a sense of demand. It creates a sense of urgency. You might have an open house. Open house is a little less reliable. You don't know who's going to show up. If you've at least scheduled 5, even 10 people, some of those there will be some attrition. Some won't show, but some will. And I'll find a local realtor and say, hey, you want my leads? Here's the commission involved. You show it, you bring the tenant, it's yours. Before you've even started marketing, sit down and think about your screening criteria. Really, what is it that you require? Create a form, in fact, that applicants can sign, have it signed before you collect those application fees, and certainly before you put down the money to run that paid background check, that credit check, that criminal check. And some of the online listing services that I talked about, they do offer application and background check products. None of that's going to go into the current and prior landlords, the employers, etc. That's something you will have to do, but be sure to do that. And you've done it, and you've got it rented. Now what? Well, pre-move-in documentation. Get lots of pictures and videos of that property beforehand. It's important for move-out. Let's say things are moving a little slower than you expected or you thought it should be. Do consider that. There is seasonality to this industry. Simply put, more people move in the spring, late spring in particular, and the summer. Now, that said, you will have fewer houses on the market in the fall. So those people that are looking will not have as much to choose from. That puts you in a good position. And I will tell you, never, never, never pass up on a good investment just because it's going to put you into a November or December lease-up period. It's slowest around those holiday times. I can tell you that from experience. I would much rather get that asset under control and hold it until things pick up. January 1, boom. A lot of people move in at the start of the year. January is a big time of the year as well. So if things are moving slowly, seasonality may be at play, and reevaluate. Are you really in line with the market? Did you renovate that house to market expectations to get that price that you're asking? And if it is moving a little slowly, well, consider lowering your price a little bit. It's better to give up $10 per month or $25 per month right now and get at least right now rather than wait, say, 30 days on an $1,800 rent. You're giving up a lot more by holding to that price over 30 days than giving up a little bit now. So think about that. And I'll tell you, with the number of pets these days, I was talking with the producer over the break, people moving in with pets, odds are pretty darn good you're going to recover that discount anyway through your pet fees. So just some things to think about if you find that days on market are getting a little bit longer than you like. And last thing to bring up with you, and I'll go back to the very start of the show. It goes back to that education. As part of your education, you're going to learn good processes. You want to make sure you learn good processes so that this investment runs a lot smoother, and this part in particular runs a lot smoother. We teach you how to do that at Lifestyles Unlimited. Go to lifestylesunlimited.com, click on our free workshop, learn all about what we do, and I hope to see you out there in the market.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.